The next pattern we're going to talk about is the factory method pattern, which I believe is the most misunderstood design pattern. A lot of people are confused about this pattern, so let me clarify it once for all. The classic definition of this pattern says that we should use it to defer the creation of an object to subclasses. I know, that sounds really dry and theoretical. So let's put it in practice. Let's say we're going to build a web application framework so other developers can use our framework to build web applications. There's so many frameworks out there. For example, JavaScript developers use Express.js, C# developers use ASP.NET MVC or Core, Java developers use Spring or Spring Boot, Python developers use Django, and so on. So let's say we're going to build a new shiny framework called Matcha. Now, all these frameworks have a concept of a template or a view, which is an HTML file with some logic for rendering data. For example, over here, we have an H1 element for rendering a heading called products, followed by this special syntax for executing some logic. So here we have a for loop for iterating over a list of products. And for each product, we have a paragraph element to render the title of that product. And note that we have another special syntax for rendering a property of an object. So pretty much all these frameworks have an engine that can read a template or a view like this and spit out HTML content. So back to our project, let's add a new package called factory. Here we're going to add a new class called Matcha View Engine. Now in this class, we need a method for rendering a view or a template. So public string, which is going to be the HTML content we're going to return to the client. So we call it render and give it two parameters. The first one is the name of the view, and the second is the data that we're going to pass to the view. So in this example, products is the data that we have passed to this view, okay? So here I'm going to use a map so we can pass multiple objects to our view. A map of string and object. Now we can call this data or context. It doesn't really matter. Now we're not going to worry about the actual algorithm of parsing a template file like this. Instead, we're going to return a simple string like view rendered by Matcha. As simple as that. Next, we need to implement a controller, which is a class that responds to user actions. So as the user navigates our websites and clicks on different buttons, different controllers are going to kick in. They're going to take the user's request and return a response. So we're going to add a new class called controller with a method for rendering a view. So public void render. We need the same parameters as before. So view name and map of string and object called context. Now in this controller, first we need to create an instance of our view engine. So we can say var engine equals new Matcha view engine. Then we call engine.render and give it the view name as well as the context. We're going to get the HTML content as a result. Finally, we need to write that to the response so it gets returned to the client. Now again, we're not going to worry about that part. So instead, we're going to print the HTML content on the terminal, okay? So this is the base class for all our controllers. Now let's say someone is going to use our framework to build a products page. So in their application, they have to add a new class called products controller. This class should extend our controller class. So for clarity, let me organize these classes into a different package. So I'm going to add a new package here called Matcha. This is our web framework. Next, I'm going to move the controller and Matcha view engine inside this package. Good. Now, back to the products controller. So this is the class in someone's application. Now, here we're going to add a method for listing the products. So public void list products. Now, in a real application, here we need to get the list of products from a database. But again, we're not going to worry about that part. So I'm going to add it as a comment. Get products from a database. Next, we need to create a context object for passing the products to our view. So we create a map of string and object, call it context, and set it to a new hash map. Now here we're going to have some code like context.put products, but because we don't have the products, I'm going to leave it as a comment. And finally, we're going to use the render method that we have inherited from the base controller class. So render, here we need to specify the name of our view. Let's say products.html, and then we need to give it the context that includes the data. That is the big picture. Now, there is a problem in our current implementation of this controller. This controller is tightly coupled to Matcha View Engine. What if we want to allow others using our framework to use their own view engine? Perhaps a view engine that is faster and supports a better templating language than what we have introduced here. With our current implementation, this is not possible. One solution is to extract an interface from this class and pass it as an argument to the render method. So let's go to Matcha View Engine. We right-click on the class name, then go to refactor, then extract. Unfortunately, that is not visible in my recording window. So extract interface. So we're going to call that interface view engine and give it the render operation. Refactor, yes. Okay, so our Matcha View Engine now implements the view engine interface, which has a single method. Okay, now in our controller, we can pass the view engine as the third parameter. So view engine, engine, right? Now we don't need to create an instance of the Matcha View Engine class. So this solves our problem, but introduces a new kind of problem. It makes it harder for other people to use our framework. So let's go to the products controller class. Look, we have a compilation error because we have to pass a view engine as the third argument. So in every method of every controller where we call the render method, we have to pass a view engine, like Matcha View Engine or another view engine. This is the problem you're facing. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to solve this problem elegantly using the factory method pattern.